guys, welcome back. Haven't made a video in a bit, got a little project. This is a combination birthday present, treat to myself and whatever. I'm going to add this to my Grizzly G0704 mill, and got a digital readout. Got this from Amazon, and I'll put a link. I just got this. It actually only took about 4 or 5 days to come all the way from China, and let's see what we got here. We'll both open this. We'll both see this at the same time. Okay, so we have a so-called instruction booklet. We'll look at that later. Power cord. The mounting arm, and they even give you a collet rack. As an extra bonus, I guess. Okay, I bought the 3-axis. I was gonna get just the 2-axis, and I said, you know what? I know what'll happen. I'll buy the 2-axis, and later on I'll say, I wish I would have got the 3. So I just bit the bullet and bought the 3-axis up front, and they give you an instruction book and user manual here. We'll look through that and see how useful or useless that may be. So, okay, and let me see. Here's the box with the scales. Now, kind of holding my breath on this. When I purchased it, it said to leave a message with the seller and let them know what travel I desired for the scales. Now, the travel I measured was 19 inches for the X-axis, 6 inches for the Y-axis, and the Z-axis I came up with 11. So I converted that to millimeters, and I sent the guy a message, or the seller a message. I don't know if it's a guy or a woman or whatever. And they never got back to me. So, so I was kind of holding my breath the whole time, and to see if in fact they're going to send me the correct length scales. So we will find out together. Okay, here's one of the mounting brackets there, or the covers, I should say. Another cover. Another cover. And let's see. Let's go for the. Go straight for the big gun here. This is a mess here. Okay, so this is the longest one. I'm figuring on this is for the X-axis, and these are glass scales. Obviously, at the price I paid, I'm not going to get magnetic scales. And I needed, what did I say, 19 inches of travel. So the overall length of this scale is 25 inches. So I'm thinking we're going to be okay with this. it's got this locking plastic in here to keep this secured. So, I think we're going to be all right with that. And this one here, this looks like this would be the 11-inch one. This would be for the Z-axis, 16 inches overall. Little guy here obviously will be for the y-axis, and this is 11 3/8 overall, and that's end to end. For me to measure the travel, I have to take these little plastic holding clamps off, it looks like. So all right, we'll get to that later on. And then along with that is, let me get this out of the way, and a bunch of these brackets here, aluminum brackets. I guess these are the covers, the can caps for these covers here. Okay. And okay, so they give you 5 of these extruded aluminum brackets. These feel like they're pretty robust. Feel like they're pretty good. And bag of some wire ties, a couple of cable clamps, and some other fasteners. I think this is some sort of shims in here, or this might be a spacer when you go to mount it, so you get the proper distance for these to slide. So, all right. So I just wanted to give you guys a little introduction to this. I'll be videotaping the installation on this. So I hope everybody finds this interesting. Okay, so this is the instruction booklet. Basically, you can just throw this right in the garbage. It is completely useless. Although, if you like to, if you like some bathroom reading material, or sit around as like a joke book, that's probably maybe you can get entertainment value out of it. But it is completely useless. You know, it's probably translated, some rough translation into English, or more really like Chinglish, probably of the Mandarin variety. Here, for instance, this is explaining how to draw holes along an elliptical path. It tells you the function. And I'm reading this right from the book. I couldn't make this up if I even tried to. It says, the God of the earth, who points out that the obvious form of number provides the convenient ellipse having hole function, comma, handles person requires English to import an ellipse. I have no idea what that means. Just look on YouTube and you can find probably half a dozen videos, tutorials on operating a digital readout. That's what I've been doing. So basically, the book is a waste of time. Okay, so I'm going to be mounting the scale for the y-axis in this kind of a configuration. This way, having the slot at the bottom will keep the chips out, any oils or cutting fluids or anything like that, and so just probably loop around in the back. and I'll get that all tied down. So as you see, this is on at an angle. I'm going to wind up making a bracket that's going to secure the scale itself to the carriage or saddle, whatever you want to call it, and that'll have to get spaced out a bit so this stays straight. So this will have to get spaced out a bit, and so I'm gonna make something for that. I figure while I have this off, I'll just show you how I determined the actual travel. Underneath here, I don't know if you can see here, I got a piece of tape with a line on that, and another piece here. Now this is in the Y direction. This is as far forward as the table can, travel, and so that's it. That's where it stops. And then I just do the same thing. Brought that in as deep as it'll go. And I got the chip guard off of that, so but that's as far as that goes there. And then I just take a ruler, and that's where that line corresponds to, and just take my measuring from line to line, and it's roughly 6 inches, and that's the dimension I gave the people who I bought the digital readout from. I did the same for the x-axis and for the z-axis as well. So all right, so that's how I measured that. I got a piece of back to the mounting. I got a piece of 5/8 inch square stock. I'm thinking some along these lines here. I'm gonna cut a piece, mount that to that, and that'll give something over here to mount that, and that should shim that out far enough to clear this angle here. I think that's what I'm going to do. So let me get some measurements. I'll get it cut down. I got to drill, do some tapping into the cast iron here, and it's important to get that parallel to this, because any angles this is on, it's you're going to introduce error. So you want to try to get this to travel as straight as possible. So as far as level with the table and the axis of the travel. If this is at an angle, there's going to be a little bit of binding. If this is pushed out in the back more than in the front, or vice versa, it's not going to be traveling in a true straight line with the axis of retravel. So it's going to take a little bit of time. You want to take your time and get this as accurate as possible. Change here. I got this piece of 1-inch aluminum box tubing, which is going to work out better. It's going to give me more surface area to mount these scales on. So, and I got to mount this piece. I got to mount this piece onto this part of the slide. Now this stands proud just a little bit of the base casting, so that'll slide back and forth as the table moves in and out without a problem. So this has got to get fastened onto here, and just so I make sure that those holes are straight and in line with the top of the table, I got my surface gauge up here, and I just scribe the line, and here, and here, and I put 2 center punch marks, one here and there, and I'll go and I'll drill these out and tap these. The screws that came with the kit are some metric variety, so I'll have to check them out and see what they have. If I have a tap for that, I'll tap it with the metric. If not, I'll have to look in my fastener bin and see what we have that's appropriate for that. Okay, so I got one hole drilled already. Figured I show you what I'm up to with this. So it's a metric M4 thread that came with the kit. I have a tap for that, so I'm going to go ahead and use their hardware. What I made here was a guide block out of a piece of steel, and that'll ensure that I drill the hole straight. And got a piece of tape. I don't want to go any further than that tape. I don't want to run into the dovetail. So I'm going to go ahead and okay, so that should be good for that. So what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and I'll tap these 2 holes with that metric tap. Okay, so all right, got that piece of square tubing bolted onto the carriage, and I had to make a little adjustment. It was hitting underneath here. I don't know if you could see. There's a little spot where the boss is. So what I wound up doing was, I'll take it off later and I'll show you. The holes that I had drilled in this aluminum, I took them, I made them into slots that were vertical, so I could drop this whole thing down a little bit so I can clear under here. So now I just got the scale mounted up here temporarily. This is even with the top, to put these parallels here, and I want to be able to get these holes more or less in the center. So I just got a 10-32 bolt in there, resting on top. I use my transfer punch. A couple of shots in there. And put this clamp back on here to hold that. And I'll do the same over here. So the purpose of this screw is so I get the transfer punch pretty much in the middle of the travel. It's not perfect in the middle, but it's going to give me some adjustment up or down. Okay. So, all right. So I'll take this off. See if we can see here. And okay. And I got to drill these out, and I'm just going to wind up putting probably like a nylock nut on the back. Now they gave you some metric screws, but I don't have any nuts with that. I got these 10-32 screws, and I got some nylock nuts. I'll be able to put these through here and attach that on. And these holes here are where the 2 M4 screws that came with the set get tapped in here. So as you can see, this here now travels on there, and the reader here will get fastened to this with probably one of the brackets they supplied me with. I'm thinking. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we're gonna set that up. All right. Let me get these drilled, and a couple of more things on there, and we'll go from there. I'll see you in a little bit. Well, okay. As you can see, it's got more involved than I anticipated. So I got the Y-axis pretty much done. Just got to drill and tap the holes for the bracket for the reader. what I decided. I wanted to put the x-axis on the back of the table, and well, there's just not enough room really to drill behind it very easily, so I decided to pull the whole thing off and work like a gentleman over here. And so I'm gonna wind up drilling and tapping 2 holes here. That'll be for the reader, and this will kind of go like this here. You guys can see I'm kind of hand holding this right now. So so that's where we're at right now. I'm going to drill and tap those probably for a 10-30-second screw. Okay, so what I got here is I put a couple of hold down clamps, and just use some parallels just to space that out, give me a little clearance. Got to figure out a cover to put on this afterwards, and set this up in the center, drilled and tapped it, and drilled and tapped over here too. And so this is tapped for 1024 all around, and so this will get bolted down to the cross slide, and I'll be able to move this back and forth here. So alright, that's the plan. I'll put this back on the mill, and I'll bring you over there after I get everything back together. Okay, so that's what we got going on here now. I don't know if you guys can see this. I got the reader mounted to the dovetail piece, called a carriage, slide, whatever you want to call it. That part stays stationary in the X direction, and the scale is going to be bolted to the table. You saw me tap those holes previously. I wound up taking this whole piece off just to make drilling the hole straight much easier. So now, trying to think ahead a bit, they give you these here protective covers. There's really no way to really mount this at this point. They would have to fit this way. So I got a piece of 1/16 aluminum angle. Milled a couple of slots here. The 2 mounting screws will go through. This will drop down over it, and afterwards I'm going to cut this mounting lip off, and this will get mounted like this here. I can't put a bolt through this because the mounting screw is going to go through this point here. So I'm just thinking a pop rivet on either side, and that'll protect anything from probably liquids more than anything. If I use coolant or any oils, cutting fluids, this way if it drips down, it'll just drip off the back. And I'm going to do the same for the other side, for the Y direction as well, something similar to that. So let's get this guy slipped in position. Okay, so get this guy fastened in here, and just going to leave this loose for now. I'll get the other side, and what I'll do is I'll put this in here, and actually I'll put this in here and snug this up. This will be flush with the top of the table, and if I get that tightened down, I'll trim this off and put this in. I'll get the other side done. Okay, so for the brackets, I'm gonna, what I did was, they give you a couple of these brackets here like this, so I just took, pretty apparent, I just cut one in half and made two like that, and this will get mounted on the back of the column, so the column will sit, this was the column, this would sit here, and it would rest on a flat part of the column casting, and so I won't have to worry about trying to build up something on the back to maintain this being straight. The back of the casting is flat, so and then I'll just drill a couple of holes and tap them on the back of the column, and we'll have one bracket for the bottom, a bracket for the top, and the scale will bolt to the side. Yeah, so that's the plan. All right, I'll get drilling and tapping on the column, and I'll bring you over for that, and when I get set up for that. Okay, so made some brackets here. A little contortion work here. I got a drill behind, so I got my angle drill, and alright, that was an 1/8 inch pilot hole, and now I'll come back and I'll drill that with another 25 drill bit, which is the correct size for a 1024 screw. Alright, so I'll try to get a different angle here. Me tapping this. I'm just taking my time. This is like a real awkward positioning. So this is like looking down from the top. Okay. Alright, well that's 1 of 4 done. And alright. I'm gonna go ahead and tap the other hole here and then do the same on the bottom bracket. I'll do that off camera. I'll bring you back when I have everything mounted up and something a little bit more interesting to watch. Okay, so here is the this would focus. Okay, so here's the bracket. You guys can see it's bolted to the back of the column. Like I said before, this surface here is square with this edge here, so this is pushed up against there, and this forms a nice straight angle here. So we got one there, and the other one is down there. So the scale will just get fastened like that, and I'll bring you back when I get that attached and work on an arm that'll go from this portion here to the reader. Probably just a flat plate of aluminum that'll slip behind the scale. So let me get the scale mounted up and find a little scrap of aluminum to make a bracket out of, and I'll bring you back when we get going. So I got the Z scale in place now, and you can see here I got that bracket going to the reader, and got it fastened on here. This is all adjusted to be straight, and got it connected here. So now we got 3 axes connected. Let's see if you can see that. And alright, so the only thing left to do is put the covers on, and got to figure out exactly where I'm gonna mount the display. Don't know if I'm going to mount it to the mill itself, or I'm thinking maybe just put the bracket on the wall. Probably somewhere. Maybe take some of this down, relocate that, and maybe I can mount it right here. So, I don't know. Got to think about that a bit. Alright, well, there is the there's the Z scale. As you can see, I got this plate which runs underneath, connects to the reader. Put this dust cover on, and that's all connected. I'm just hand holding this here. This is very tight in here. And got the dust cover on this. I just put a couple of 6/32 screws through here to hold that on. And see if I can bring you under here to see. Okay. And I got another one of those clamps like this inside here, and that's supporting that wire there. And this here, okay, what I did was I went ahead and trimmed this lip. This lip I trimmed off of this scale here, and so that's nice and flush across there. Right now it's just being held in with the pressure underneath the vise. I don't know if I'm going to put a couple of pop rivets in here. I have an 1/8" hole, and that lines up with the end of the scale here. I can't go through and put a nut and bolt because the bolt that holds the scale to the table is right in the way here. So I mean, a pop rivet would do it, would work pretty good. It's quick. Problem with that is every time you want to, if you have to take this off to do anything, any cleaning or anything, then you got to drill it out. So I don't know. I may decide just to put a pop rivet in there. Got a couple more things to do before I put this on though. I want to get the rubber weight cover back on here. Now with the reader here, see if I can get these in. Now with the reader under here, there's the 2 holes, but I'm gonna have to make a piece to extend that out, and then put the rubber weight cover here. It's metric, and I gotta run to the store. I gotta get some metric hardware, and that's it. It's coming along. The only thing left after I get that weight cover on, fasten this down, and mount the readout itself. So, all right. Well, one of the things I noticed after I unboxed everything is that I think it was this one. It was missing. There was nothing there. So
I got a, you know, junk box with all kinds of computer fasteners and things like that, and I happen to have a few of these. So I went ahead and opened this up, probably voiding whatever warranty that they have to offer, and I put this in. Now, I don't think they ever put this in right from the start, because on the other side of these, there are nuts. It's not screwed into anything, it's just a through hole with a nut on the other side. So if this was just loose and fell out somewhere along the line, I would think the nut would be floating around inside this housing, and nothing. And so I had to rummage around, find a nut that would fit on that, and well, as you can see, I replaced it. So
that was one thing.
another thing is that move that out of the way. These are these end covers that fit over the on the protective covers of the scales. Well, there was one missing. No great deal. I modified the scale covers to fit the application, and turns out that I think I'm using one set of these, so no big deal. Other thing is they give you a couple of these little clamps, and I'll bring you over later on and I'll show you. They give you like 3 of these things. Well, nice idea, but except that the cabling does not fit in that. So let me bring you over and show you. Alright, so as you can see, the clamp they give you, there is no way that's gonna squeeze down and really effectively do anything with that, besides probably just break. So what I wound up doing was, let me bring you in here, get you in focus. Okay, so what I did here was I just got, this is a larger electrical clamp. I got a package of them at Home Depot. Did a 3/8 size. And 3/8 would be too big. This would just swim around in there. So this is a piece of silicone tubing, hose, or whatever I had laying around from something. You could probably find something similar. And I just put a slit in it, and it gives just enough grip. So this is decently secured now. I did that for this connection, and the one underneath for the for the Y travel. And so I'm going to put a couple more, bundle everything up nice, and we'll get that tidied up. Alright, so the digital readout is pretty much completed. The only thing I got to do is I got to make a bracket for the rubber weight cover. I got to fasten that. So I got to run to the hardware store, get some. Here we go. So the Y-axis is working fine. The X-axis, alright, that's working fine. And the Z-axis, if I can get in here to operate that, as you can see. So alright, I decided on, I mounted this arm to the wall behind the mill, and you know, it's fairly secure.